Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
Well, today we have a guest with us.
Awesome.
I will say that our guest, this is her first time ever being on a podcast. So we are excited to have
so great
a wonderful a person who has never done this before. Not that she is incapable, but we're just excited. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with us a good friend and coworker of Scott and I's. Her name is Laura, and she is very talented on a variety of fronts. But we have her here today because of her affiliation with an organization, a national organization called Hope Squad. One of the things that seems to be a growing problem is poor social, emotional health amongst adolescents today. To the point, I don't know if you saw the article, Scott, but the Texas Education or the commissioner for the Texas Education Association has called for the state to ban cell phones in public schools across the state.
Amen.
Effective immediately.
Amen.
And I mean, to me, that says a lot about just the role that a cell phone can have. I mean, growing up sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to figure out your way in the world in the best of times, under the best of circumstances, is tough. I mean, I was a tall, geeky, uncoordinated, goofy kid.
We talk about that too much.
So, I mean, I was afraid of my own shadow.
Sure.
I wanted to talk to girls. I didn't know how to talk to girls. I was unpopular. Yeah. I was popular with all the other geeky, goofy band kids. And so being, 13, 14, 15, 16, trying to find your way is tough. And I think today with social media, it makes it even tougher.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, I've been reading that book by Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious Generation. And that book is so great. Like, I recommend it to everybody. But the research that he has done that shows the damage that social media in particular, not devices, but social media and then online gaming, what it does to younger kids, right?
Okay.
If you're like under 16 or under 13, it's damaging to their brains because their brains aren't done developing.
Okay.
And so, like, that's a danger. So, amen. I hope that the state really considers, if they don't ban them, that they do something that would limit their use better than having just teachers try to fight. Well, but we keep talking.
We do.
We've got a guest sitting here. Right?
She's twiddling her thumbs over here.
She's on the clock. No, we're not paying anybody because we don't get paid. So,
no.
But she's here to lend us her expertise.
Yes. So anyway, we have at our school this national organization known as Hope Squad. And Laura, well, you were tasked when you came aboard last year to be the Hope Squad faculty advisor. Can you tell us a little bit about what Hope Squad is, what it does, and the value it can bring to schools, to kids, to families, to parents?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you guys so much for having me on the podcast. I appreciate you guys taking the time to help parents out and help a community. And that's kind of the main goal of Hope Squad. So Hope Squad is a student-led organization that tries to facilitate bullying intervention, creating change in school communities through training kids how to see suicide signs and kind of create awareness, and then really training kids to have that conversation, and then helping them get other kids help, essentially, is what we do. So We spread a lot of kindness throughout the school and throughout the community, and then we have a lot of hard conversations in class, equipping kids to deal with those signs and then how to help their friends get help.
That's great.
Now, this is a national organization. We could have, there's other programs out there, like Rachel's Challenge. One of the other previous school districts I've taught in, they did and focused heavy on that. What is it about Hope Squad that this school district chose over, other programs? How does this work maybe differently?
Right. I think that's a great point. Rachel's Challenge and all the other programs, it's not to say that there's anything wrong with them, but the difference in Hope Squad is that you're starting kids having the conversation at elementary level, and then it moves into middle school level, and then you move into the class in high school. So this is a vertical alignment from top to bottom. And so we're not discussing suicide with elementary school kids, but we are discussing how to be kind. And then when they get to middle school, it's a club, and it's more about bullying and different things like that. And then high school, there's actually a curriculum that we follow. And so it changes it from just a kindness club to a student-led curriculum and organization that we just sponsor and kind of help.
Wow.
That's so great. So the students are actually kind of leading it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my class is very discussion based. So, we kind of prompt the question and things like that. And then the kids kind of take it away, and everything that they want to put in their own ideas, I just kind of facilitate and help them see it through.
So what kind of conversations do they talk about?
Yeah. So it really depends on what phase we're in throughout the year, right? The beginning phase, our first pillar is intentionality. And so it's teaching kids how to be intentional with their self-care and just kind of the things that you wouldn't talk about in a normal class, but how do you take care of yourself to then help others? And then we move into service. And so that comes along with, okay, now we're helping others. What are the warning signs we're looking for? How can I get involved with helping people? And then it's kind of about accountability is our next pillar. And so that's when you talk about the hard things like grief and life changes and dealing with a parent and different things like that. And then we take it big and we go to community wide. So kind of depends on what phase, but definitely a lot of hard conversations about real life things that they'll have to deal with outside of high school.
Is there anything that you can share that surprises you, some of the stuff that these kids have to deal with, or disappoints you that, well, this is a topic that's come up pretty much all the time?
I don't think there's really anything necessarily disappointing about the class, because it's interesting to see the different level of, I want to say maybe trauma that different kids have gone through. We have a kid who just wants to be in the class to help, and then we have another kid who lost a parent to suicide. And so how do you mend that level of grief and then that level of maturity and open up a space for vulnerability? That's probably the most surprising thing that I really have to battle every day, is how do we get those two kids to come along together and work together?
Okay. Yeah, because trauma can be it can have lifelong effects. I was recently reading an article that was talking about it can lead up to, it's even worse for girls than it is for boys, that it can lead to a wide variety of both physical and mental health problems as they become adults, especially if it's not addressed or treated. So, wow, that would be quite a challenge. So what kind of training do you as a faculty advisor get?
Yeah, so when I stepped into the position, we went through an entire day of QPR training, which is question, persuade, and respond, essentially. And so we go through all of that, and then we end up actually equipping you guys to do the same thing, our other staff members. And then a good group of our teachers and counselors have gone to Utah, where they hold the National Hope Squad Convention. And that apparently is a really big treat that we get to go to and get to hear from other Hope Squad sponsors throughout the nation.
Okay. Yeah, we've had some of our I've known a few that have been lucky enough to go, and yeah, they've come back very changed as a consequence. Well, if I'm a parent, what would be some questions, some observations, things to see, to hear, to listen, to observe that might give me some clues or insight that my kid is struggling, that they may not be suicidal, but it might be something that's crossing their mind, that they're very depressed, that they are just struggling.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing to recognize is that parents know their kids best. And so you have to be able to have a welcoming environment to talk about those feelings, right? A kid's not going to come to you if you haven't created that trusting relationship. Feelings are okay to discuss, right?
Right.
And then once you've created that environment, it's about recognizing whether it is an indirect sign or a direct sign, right? If they're directly saying to you, I want to kill myself, or, anything along those lines, that's a conversation that needs to have. It's not just oh, they said this, they don't mean it. No, it needs to be addressed of why we don't say those things, or if you're really feeling that way, what can we do to help you, right? And then if it's an indirect signs, right, major changes in behavior, or it can be anything as small from failing a test to a major life change, the transition from middle school to high school, and just kind of constantly checking in on your kids. Hey, how are you doing? How are things going? And hopefully it's a good enough relationship to where they're going to be open and honest with you about how they're feeling.
Okay. Is there any specific word? I mean, you're mentioning, okay, well, I want to kill myself. How do you know, is there a way to maybe identify a kid blowing off a bizarre statement versus something that might be a little more serious? What would maybe be some kind of action, specific, exact actions that we could be looking for? I mean, I hear if they start giving away their stuff.
Yeah, that's a big one. Giving away their stuff. Also, isolation is a big one. So if you see a kid really isolating themselves from their friends or their family or anything like that, that's definitely a change that you want to look for. Something that's also super prevalent is a kid's social media. If you're not looking at your kid's social media, then you need to start, because you can tell if a kid is going through something because they're going to post it. And usually it's a cry for help. And so definitely, be looking at those things. But yeah, I would say the biggest things are probably the isolation factor, giving stuff away, and then if they're starting to abuse any substances, that's a huge factor in leading to that idea of suicide.
We have had, it feels like that we were having students in our district. I think we had one a year for 4 years in a row.
Wow.
And it was really disturbing.
Yeah.
I did not have any of the students in class, none of them. I only teach seniors, so none of them had become a senior yet. But I did have a former student who he committed suicide right before the world shut down with COVID. In fact, I went to his funeral on Monday and the world shuts down on Wednesday. And it was horrible. The kid was a funny kid, a joking kid. He was a top 10 graduate his graduating year. And it makes me wonder, if we had something like this then, if it might have been a resource to help maybe save his life.
There's a quote that I love, but it always says, check on your strong friends, right? Or the friends that are constantly making jokes. And so as a parent, to me, I'm like, you have to constantly be checking on your child, regardless of how they normally are, because you really never know what a kid's going through or what they've dealt with in the day. And so it's a scary, scary thing to deal with for sure.
I think it's even harder to hide it today, right? Like, because you have social media, and some kids actually have like another account that you might not know about. But I'm curious, like, because I've been doing this study of like social media and its impacts on the kids. Like, are you finding that the kids are talking about social media being a problem for them at all?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we had a conversation the other day about certain boundaries and how you put in place boundaries. And what I'm seeing is that kids are either, their parents are letting them run free on social media, or they have time restraints on social media.
Right.
And the kids that have the time restraints are normally doing better because it's away from the comparison and away from the
constant gratification that
Right.
they're used to getting, and it's just time to be present with whatever they're doing.
Right. Now, so I only have anecdotal information, from my own experience and my daughter's experience. So my youngest daughter is 24, but a couple of years ago, she was really into social media, all of it, and was really depressed, and like things went really bad. And she's, of course, not living with me at this point because she's an adult, but she ended up getting rid of all of her social media, and the change in her is absolutely incredible, to the point where she's like, I'm never going back to that. Because she doesn't have any of those issues anymore, and she's gotten really strong about she might be able to handle it now, but she's gotten really strong about like coping with those kinds of things that she would now see, and so I get really concerned. That's why I'm like, I tell my students in class, like, give it up, give it up for a week, give it up for 2 weeks, see what it does to you. And the kids that tell me that they do that say they feel great when they take a break from social media. And I just wonder if we shouldn't do something like that, like really be looking to, and parents can do it, right? We don't have to wait for the state to create a law, right? Parents can enforce it and say, you know what, you're not bringing your phone to school.
Well, and one of the things that some of the kids have been sharing is that they have, even at the outpatient facility I worked at this summer, the kids would say, well, I've got one that my mom and dad know about, and I've got one they don't know about.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I don't know how you would know what, how many accounts they have and under what name. But I think, again, as a parent, being involved, but I think I don't want to say, the word that comes to mind is be open, but have open dialogue, open communication.
Yeah.
My wife, Sherry, she's really done an amazing job with her kids, keeping that line of communication open. That no matter what they do, no matter how bad it might seem, come and talk. To the point that sometimes they share maybe a little more than she wished they would, but I think I would rather have too much than not enough.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, I'd rather know what's going on, right? Because then I can talk to you about what's the right thing and what's not, and we can talk about how to deal with it. So, I mean, if I as a parent, if my kid is doing drugs, I want to know it. I'd rather know that and be able to get help and get help for them, then hide it in some way.
And that's what, yes, because I hid stuff from my parents. I mean, I snuck out of the house. My mother doesn't listen to this. But, I would sneak out of the house. I'd come home for curfew, and then I would sneak out, an hour or two later. I mean, engaging in, underage activities that all teenagers do, but I don't think that my parents were ignorant that I was not doing these things, but it was kind of like, well, you just didn't talk about it. But I think that today it might, maybe, if I'm understanding you right, be a little more open.
Yeah, I think it's about just being vulnerable with your kid, because like you just said, like, you've done it, or you've at least seen it or been around it, and so creating that space for your child to recognize,
hey, I've been there, but this is how you conduct yourself in that situation.
Right.
And not shaming them, but allowing for grace and recognizing that they're going to be your kid for the rest of their life. So you have to be okay with listening to hard things and dealing with it as a parent.
Well, and I've shared that too with some of the kids. You may say, oh, mom and dad's going to kill me. Well, no, mom and dad are not going to kill you. They might be upset with you and disappointed temporarily with your choice, but fair enough. Well, if I'm a kid and I'm not sure if I can approach my parents, what would be a way for a young person, to open dialogue, to broach the subject that I'm not okay?
Yeah, that's something that we talk a lot about in class. And the first thing, and that's why we equip kids really, because that's the first person they're going to tell, is they're going to tell a friend that they trust, hey, I'm not doing very well. And then it's about the part of, okay, well, what is that kid going to do with that information, right? So you're going to see a lot of kids go to kids if they don't want to go to a parent. But on the other side of things, the best people to go to are your coaches or your teachers or your mentors or your counselors, because every single one of us got into education to help kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so, go to them and just say, I need to talk, and have that conversation. And no, it's not going to be an easy one, but know that we are professionals and we want to get you help in the best way possible. So it's really about, creating a relationship with someone in your immediate space and then having that conversation as well.
That sounds kind of tough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it would be, is there, what would be maybe a good way to start this? I'm 14 years old.
Yeah.
How do I start a conversation of I'm not okay?
Yeah. I think the perfect example is, I had a kid one day come up to me and he said, are you blank blank? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, you don't know me, but I know that you like to help people. Can I talk to you about some things? And I said, sure. And didn't know this kid from Adam. And now we have this kid in counseling and he's getting help. And so I think it doesn't really necessarily matter how you start the conversation. It's just getting the courage to recognize I'm struggling and I need help. And like I said, it doesn't matter how you start it. I can't give you cues on what to say, but just saying, hey, I'm going through this and I need someone to help me, and going from there, really.
I think that most students have at least one adult, especially in school, that they can trust. And I think it's important that teachers and other adults be open, right? And try to be the allies of the kids and not, just try to be an authoritative figure, right? Like, we want to listen. We're here. We know that we're here to teach all kinds of stuff, whether it's sports or content, in an academic subject. But really, all that's secondary to, we want the kids to be, healthy, thriving kids, right? We don't. We want them to have healthy, not just physical health, but mental health, right? We want people to go out into the world in a healthy manner and be able to be happy and successful.
And on the teacher side of that, you can tell when a kid is struggling.
Yeah.
Teachers can tell quickly. And so recognizing that, just to check in with that kid could change their entire day, whether you recognize that or not.
Right.
Well, that kind of then cycles right into my next question for you was, what are ways that an adult, a concerned adult, again, we are teachers, coaches, but even if you're an employer and you got teenagers working with you, what are some ways that we can serve as conduits to help the kids feel comfortable, feel at ease, to be able to come to us to say, I'm not okay?
Well, I think in every professional development I set in, there's someone that says you have to know your kids.
Right.
And so it starts with creating that space of, on the first day, what is your name and what do you like to do? And then you kind of get to see this kid's behavior throughout the year. And when it's off, simply ask the question, hey, are you doing okay? Because once one kid knows that you're going to do that, then every other kid in the room knows that you're going to do that. And so as a teacher, it's really about, like every other educational program that you've gone through, is about knowing your kids and creating that safe space. And then as a parent, it kind of goes through the same thing. You have to know your kids and see what they're going through. And then if you can't do it, then seek a professional within the educational realm, because they are equipped to help you, for sure.
Right.
I will say that's one of the nice things that is required here in Texas is the mental health. What do you want to call that? The stuff we have to do at the beginning of the year. Yeah, well, because we got to watch the videos and all that. And I know that a lot of folks get frustrated. We got to do that. But I think that I'm glad that we do that, because I truly do see the value and benefit. And shoot, I'm almost done with my my work to be a professional counselor. And so I truly do go, yes, we need more of this.
Right.
And so if I am a student, if I am a parent, and I like the idea of what we've said here today about Hope Squad. Mm-hmm. And Hope Squad is not at their school or in their school district. How can I as a kid or as a parent get Hope Squad to our school or to our school district?
Yeah, so the first thing I would do is I would reach out to a local Hope Squad member, right? So in our district, I've had other districts reach out to me and ask me how to get it started. And so then it's about the process of, you have to go to the school board and you have to present it, because it is a class, and it present the changes that are being made in communities around you because of the class. So once you get that passed, then it's about, choosing the kids and all of the different things that come along with it. But the first thing I would say do is reach out to a community surrounding you, find out who your Hope Squad sponsor is, and they'll be wonderful in helping you, because that's who helped me and that's who I've helped as well.
Can we do that like with just a simple Google search? Just
a simple Google search and an email. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
excellent.
Laura, you're a coach, so I want to go coach. But anyway, I want to say thank you. We're big on wanting to help people. That's the whole point of this podcast. And I'm more and more and more. As we do more research, more study, more reading, more in just general knowledge, the impact that our mental health can have, and how for a long time, I'm a big Sopranos fan. I don't know if anybody ever watched The Sopranos, but Tony Soprano would go, well, what happened to the days of the strong, silent Cary Grant type?
Sure.
And I understand that, but I think that everybody has always had problems. And hiding our problems, drinking our problems, or abusing substances and other ways to hide our problems isn't going to solve the problem. And so being able to find ways to address it, I think, is something that we can all benefit from.
Yeah, and I think that, it's one of the things that I've talked about for years, is that kids need more coping mechanisms. And so, the things that you're teaching and the kids are discussing, it's giving them those skills that they need to be able to go through life and not feel defeated all the time.
I think, what you just said is absolutely true, right? Like, a lot of the kids that I counsel and see is, it's not that they want to commit suicide. They just don't know how to manage their time.
Yeah.
And so you have to teach them that and be with them and sit with them in that. And so it's the little things like that that matter.
And the emotions are overwhelming to them. They don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Or even who to talk to sometimes about it.
Yeah.
Or if they should talk to somebody about it, because, some families are more like, you don't share that stuff. But we should always share. Always find somebody to talk to, somebody who will listen and help you out.
Well, Laura, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hopefully your first time on a podcast was an easy one.
I would say it was pretty great. Thank you guys for having
That's
me.
awesome.
Well,
I just want to warn you that my first time on a podcast was about 2 episodes before I became full time on the podcast. So, I don't know what that means, but
Looks like I might be full time.
Well, the pay's pretty good.
It is. You're paying somebody.
Hey,
you getting paid?
What? Pay does not.
Man.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to call it a day. So I guess until next time, may your mental health be a good one. I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.